The thing I like about myself is that I really don't care what people think of me.
I mean, up until today at the airport, I was asked, Amir Khan's wife? So I was like, no longer. And she looked at me very puzzled. She was like, are you or are you not? You know?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Kiran Rao.
Good evening, everyone. Hi.
Thank you for coming, Kiran.
My absolute pleasure. You know, my aunt, my mother's sister, Usha Arur, lived in Chennai for many, many years. So I have old connections with Chennai, Tubla auntie, Mohan uncle, and it's really nice to be back. It's wonderful to be here. I don't get to come. It's nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
So, Kiran, you saw the wonderful applause for your film, and it's really a gem of a film. And I wanted to share with you that Kiran has started a new production company called Kindling Production, Pictures. And of course, kindling means to spark things. It's both a verb and a noun. But for me, what struck me was the word kind in it. And, you know, this film, it's at its heart, there's just such a kindness and warmth to it, Kiran. So I'd love to know, yes, why you picked that word, but also this film. You know, it's a almost 11 or 10-year hiatus since your last film, Dhobi Ghat. And then to make a comeback is always a tense moment. What drew this particular story to you, and how did you make it your own?
So actually, interestingly, kind was the word I was hoping to make have somewhere in the name of my company, because I felt it was an important quality for any of the work that I do, because I'm interested in society, I'm interested in people, I'm interested in what we're doing to the planet, I'm interested in many things, and I feel like the lens that I want to be doing it with is somewhere, whatever the genre is, have some empathy in there. So yeah, kindling was what we decided on. But what was the second
I said
part?
that, after a hiatus.
So long break. It actually came to Amir, this script, and I got really lucky because Amir was on the jury of a screenwriting award that was, in 2018. And when this script was written by a writer called Biplab Goswami, and Amir loved it instantly, came home and was like, this is a great script, you should read it. I read it, loved it. We managed to get it from Biplab only in 2020. But something about the story, I mean, like you said, I'd been struggling for a long time to write. I have a lot of projects that I've been developing and I still hope to be making. But somewhere perhaps the second film, anxiety, or just sort of I don't know, it's the second film syndrome, You kind of want to outdo your first, you want to take on some bigger challenge. And I also had a lot going on. I'd had Azad, and I was struggling to find the right tone, the right story. I knew the story, I was just not able to finish the script. It just was a series of things that led me to almost believe that things just happen when they have to sometimes. But this was happenstance, this was great chance. And the second I heard it, I felt it's a great vehicle to say a lot of things. It's such a fun story. I mean, it's unbelievable that two girls could actually get swapped and, be missing for 4 days. So it's hard to believe, but this has happened. And it was really trying to...
Oh, it has happened.
It has fully happened. I mean, up until recently, somebody told me that when the film just released, someone came and said, "Hamare yahan bhi hua hai." There's a time in the year when all the women get together and there are young brides there, and one girl got in the bus and went home to the wrong place and had to come back. But it was such a delicious sort of world and metaphor and all of the things that we wanted to do in there, except that I wanted to tonally make it funny and, play on.
I was interested in your, I've been listening to you talk, and you've really put an emphasis on this element of humor, And in all your public pronouncements, you are known for someone who speaks quite strongly and stridently about, I'll put feminism in quote unquote because I'd love us to unpack what that means further into the conversation. But, you're strongly out there speaking about women's rights, and you get such a powerful metaphor. And you said Biplab's story was possibly darker, but you all softened it, definitely introduced more humor into it. Why were you keen to do that this time?
Yeah, Biplab's story actually wasn't dark. It was very realistic, and he tried to maintain a sort of a realistic tone through it. It had elements of humor because of the sort of it's a situational comedy. I mean, the situation is funny.
Yeah.
But
Maybe we're just assuming, how many of you have seen it? Because I suddenly realized oh wow, that's great. Okay.
okay.
For those of you who haven't, just
may
in
be
one line,
spoilers.
it's two brides who get swapped in a train, and then it's all the circumstances that happen to them. There's a very small percentage of you that haven't seen it, so we won't put too many
Yeah.
spoilers there.
Yeah. So I just felt that one was I wanted to work on some characters. The character of Jaya was very different in his story. There was not as much. There was no suspense as such. You kind of knew what she was about right from the get-go. So there were those elements, but I knew that this story it could have so many layers and speak to so many kinds of experience that women have. But done in a very realistic sort of way, it would just be...
Alienate.
Yeah, it would alienate, it would be... I felt a little bit boring because we all have these experiences. It's just that, to actually do it in a way that's funny makes it sort of, makes everybody else sort of more conscious of it in some way. When you do it through humor, it sort of highlights it in some way even more. You know what I mean?
Right.
Rather than just saying it. Exposition just doesn't have the same impact as something that you go, about, which I haven't actually told you up front. And humor has that disarming kind of quality. It has the ability to kind of go, you can slide your knife in a lot easier when people are comfy and laughing. Honestly, I mean, the idea was, of course, a critique, but again, with empathy, because we are all part of the problem as well as the solution. And I think that was something we wanted to sort of do, and humor was the right vehicle, we thought, for it.
So, we're going to have Richa on soon, and as I was saying, it's very difficult at this time when everyone's kind of struggling to find what will really bring audiences back. You were going to make a comeback, and you make a film that is not very well-known actors. You had Ravi Kishan, of course, but it's also women-centric. It's set in rural India. What gave you that absolute conviction about the story? What in it really caught you?
In the story?
Yeah.
It's the premise itself is just so juicy and delicious, and I don't know how many people, I wouldn't say women, but I know certainly women, have dreamed of just running away, dropping all their responsibilities, and all of us sort of harbor that fantasy at some point in our lives, you wish you could just up and leave, and it's happened to me many times on a train. We used to actually do the long train journey from Calcutta to Madras, and then Madras, and then to Bangalore, where my grandmother was. And I used to, when the train used to stop in the middle of nowhere, I used to always think, what if I just get off and run away? Like, what would I find? What would my life be like? What if I had endless, sort of opportunity to explore? So I think, the idea of getting lost as a great way to find yourself is, of course, very clear in the film. But that sort of, done in a way that you could perhaps even find space within the life that you choose to live and you are happy living, especially for women, where we don't often have that space or create it enough for ourselves. We don't prioritize ourselves or, give ourselves as much self-love as we should 90% of the time. It just helped me talk about all those things, but in a really sort of fun, quirky sort of way, rather than make it sad.
You said something which I absolutely cannot let go. You said that you've dreamt of running away a lot of times. You have left a marriage as well, So, give us some examples of when you really wanted to up and leave, in your adult life. Don't cop out and tell me.
Frequently. I mean, as of yesterday. I mean, it happens to me routinely on a weekly basis. But that's because, when stuff gets too much, my dream is, of course, I think most people's dream is of like, going away and living in the mountains, having sort of clean air and nobody to ask me, khane mein kya banana hai, or other such things, like, do we need to take decisions on various things? So it happens to me quite often, and I don't think it's necessarily when times are bad. It's just I think the idea that we have one life and that we all would like that, we think of all the lives we could have lived.
You'd like the quantum universe to step in.
Yeah, the lives we could have lived. I think all of us think of that, what we could have done or what we could have been and where we could be living versus where we are now. And I'm so privileged that I have no reason to want to run away, honestly. I have like a wonderful life and I'm beyond privileged, and like that point, I don't know what % of this country who can choose to do what she wants, can live on my own terms. I mean, I am beyond grateful for my life. But still, it's just, I suppose, the way we've constructed society and fit all of ourselves, fit us into it. You want to sort of have, almost be anonymous. The idea of not having an identity. Not being completely tied up with social, threads of all kinds.
It's so interesting you said that because, again, it's very unusual. And I was saying what makes you unusual in your work, but also in your personal life, while living in a public glare, is that you've constantly tried to keep your right to individuality intact, And in that, you and Aamir have been very unusually ready to speak about your personal lives in public because you feel that in many ways these are issues actually that also impact society, how you get married, how you have a divorce, how you continue, all of that actually is very important topics for society as well. So, one of the things that you've publicly said, and I'd like to ask you more about it, is that you felt that when you were in that in your marriage with Aamir, that you were losing your identity and actually almost becoming anonymous, but that's not the kind of anonymity you were seeking. Can you talk to us about what was that journey there? What did you lose while you were with him?
I don't remember saying I kind of lost my identity. It's how, for myself, I've never lost it. In my own mind and in my own consciousness, I've been very clearly myself. And always try to understand who I am and what I want to do and why I want to do it. And, the search that all of us have to sort of understand ourselves better. But somehow from being a very kind of strong, independent person, I became the wife of someone. I mean, up until today at the airport, I was asked, Aamir Khan's wife? So I was like, no longer. And she looked at me very puzzled. She was like, are you or are you not? It was hilarious.
Do you exist or do you not exist?
Are you Aamir? Anyway, so that kind of loss of personal identity was something that I guess was par for the course when you marry a major superstar. And it was really as far as the public was concerned, it was just a way of identifying me. They had nothing else to identify me by other than the fact that I was his wife. And he's hugely loved and hugely well-known, so it didn't bother me beyond a point, honestly. I made a film, which of course, not that many people saw. It was an art house film, so it wasn't the kind of film perhaps that earned me legions of like massive fans, which again led to the fact that, oh, she's Aamir Khan's wife, she's, the mother of his child, etc. And all of us have these multiple identities. I think for women, it tends to be much more somebody's wife and somebody's mother. But, we, in our own, I mean, for me, in my own head, I've always sort of not struggled with that. I've never had had to felt that I had
It was
to
not.
prove
It was not a
myself.
creative ego
Not
issue.
at all, or prove, especially because Amir is has been one of the most supportive partners, whether it was in my work, whether it was in our decision to, have a surrogate, when we decided to get divorced. We've been partners in a really, in the real sense of the word, I feel. So in that sense, I've never felt like, and I never gave up my last name. I've stayed Kiran Rao from when I was born. So actually, I've never had that sort of feeling of a loss of identity. I just have always felt like, now it's an interesting place in my life because now I'm no longer married to Amir. So, which is why, at least when people come up to me now, they have to start asking me, are you Amir Khan's ex-wife? At least then I'll be like, yeah.
Right. So, many of these things actually open doors, especially when you said art house. I have a lovely line with which I want to introduce Richa, but we're going to come back to a lot of these strands. Just before we move away, it's fascinating that you had many men in that film, but they were also one of the husbands is a beautiful man. He's just the kindest, most innocent, loving spirit there. And then there's also another prototype of a man. Was that something conscious? Did you introduce that into the script, or was that there from the beginning? Did you want to also present positive models of men?
Absolutely. Sneha, who wrote most of the screenplay, Divyanidhi, who came in for additional screenplay and dialogue, we were very conscious that we wanted, even when we were doing the men, to have as much sort of, in that sense, nuance in the character and shade them well enough that they were believable. And we're not, this film was really to, to include everyone. And we have lots of loving husbands in the world, and Deepak was one. So I think Sneha really brought him to life so beautifully that, this person that you love, even though he's not very smart, or, he's a bit of a, there's this, again, a sense of sincerity and innocence that you absolutely love. So that was very, very conscious. Even the Manohar, the cop, the idea was, of course, we could have done a one-note kind of slimy, corrupt guy. But the fact that there are shades in everyone was something that we really wanted to do, except for Pradeep, honestly. There was really no space to give him shades. So sadly, he didn't turn out grey.
But
All black.
That's very realistic because there are many people like that as well,
Luckily, he's such a minority, which I'm hoping is also representative of society. There'll be the really black characters are few.
Yeah. Right. As I said, there are just lots of open doors. I'm coming right back into them. But first, I'd like to introduce the next star speaker of our evening. And again, like I said, it's absolutely wonderful to have her here because Richa Chadha epitomizes everything that is powerful in women, the desire to be individual, the desire to be an artist on her own terms, to play an absolutely intrepid canvas of characters. She possibly is one of the few women actors in India who, when she was 25, began her really big break role by playing somebody who was in their late 50s. And that is very unusual in an Indian context. But right now, she's coming fresh off the absolute victory of creating one of the most riveting series on Netflix, Hira Mandi, which I'm sure all of you have been watching. It's again all-women cast with men as tertiary characters, but in a zone which is so different. It's the world of courtesans, but not presented only as victims, but as individual, fiery, feisty, interesting, broken, vivid women of power and agency in the most difficult circumstances. And so that, in many ways, reflects both a personal and a professional journey that we would love to unpack. A big salute for doing this role. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Richa Chadha. Thank you for being here, Richa. And so many congratulations. It's particularly special to have Richa here because she's also in her last trimester. And, it's her first baby, so it's very, very precious of you to have agreed to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Richa, as I said, you've just turned producer. Like Kiran, you've started your own company, Pushing Buttons Studio. Interestingly, she also started something called Kindry, where you wanted to put kind stories out. So that's a wonderful connection between the two of you. And you're coming, as I said, straight off Hira Mandi's sets. So I would love to first delve into that. You started out with Masan, Gangs of Wasipur, you've done Bholi Punjaban, Fukre, a whole range of cabaret, real vivid range of characters. But you were getting typecast as bold and badass, both words that you don't like. And then you get to do a role which is so heartbreaking, so vulnerable. What was the experience of doing that, and what did you have to delve into to be able to create a character like Lajjo? I just want to take a quick check. How many of you have seen Hira Mandi? Okay, quite a lot of you. But again, just in a line that's set in Lahore during independence, and it's in the world of courtesans. There's a competition between who is going to take power, and Richa plays one of the courtesans who's deeply in love with another, one of the Nawabs, and to a tragic end. So I'll just leave it at that because we don't want to give it away. But what was the experience of playing Lajjo?
Thank you for having me. I'm really pleased to be in Chennai. I love this city, and I'm coming after many, many years. I trained at Adi Shakti, so at that time, this was the connection, and still is. I absolutely loved playing Lajjo. I was offered something else on the show, but I wanted to do this because I get accused of playing a lot of really empowered women. all the
Accused of
time.
playing empowered women.
Yes, because and it's kind of like it takes away the surprise from the audience as well, because they, they assume that, oh, now she's on screen. We'll see a gunshot, we'll see a slap, we'll see something that is going to take the story forward. There'll be something comical, and so I actually chose to play the shortest character in that magnum opus show. Also because I knew that there will be a lot of chatter about, how like the lives of the wives are glorified, and they've been given these beautiful costumes and the real jewelry, and that's also one aspect of it, and it's fun. But addiction, like turning to the drink or to opium at the time or something, that's very real. Not having, not being able to get rid of the social stigma and having a normal chance at life to get married, to, quote unquote, settle down. Especially for a girl who gets sold into this kind of life at the age of 6, that was important to me because I had done a film even in the past where I'd interacted with some women who were trafficked. So for that reason, I wanted something that really feels like a gut punch right in the beginning. And her only motivations are very simple in life. She's while the others are sort of plotting, scheming, wanting property, money, she doesn't want any of that. She just wants to basically have a last name. And that doesn't happen because she has social stigma attached to her position in society. So that's why I wanted to do this part, And I know it's very Mr. Bhansali gets accused of the Baroque style. And so I thought if I have to prove to people that I can do song and dance, this might be the best opportunity. And what a lovely way to go out, like a swan song,
Yeah, you've just swan song. Whose swan song? Yours.
No,
Why?
the characters.
The characters. I thought you were announcing your departure away here, from the world of cinema.
No. I've been asked that a lot of late, actually.
What?
Now that you are going to have a baby, is your husband going to act? Are you only going to produce? and versions of this question.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you something else, but that's a good entry point because, you know, actually Kiran did put her creative life on hold, or at least, you know, maybe shooting directly, because in many ways she said having a child was for you the greatest creative act of your last 10 years. So I'd love to hear you talk about that. And you're then, Richa, you know, she's just exited a marriage, you've just entered a marriage. Both of you are known for, you know, at least thinking about what it means to be a woman and a feminist. So let's start with that construct of marriage, you know, that what for you would be a successful construct of a marriage and what's working for you?
I would friendship actually. If it's friendship within the structures of a family that, within the structure that the sort of families are also at ease with. And so that's really it. I don't think I would have gotten married if I hadn't met Ali. That I'd like, there was no real need. But it just happened, and then here we are. And to quote Javed Akhtar Saab, who always talks about marriage in this way, हमारी दोस्ती इतनी अच्छी है कि शादी भी उसका कुछ नहीं बिगाड़ पाए.
Right.
Thank you.
But Kiran, then that's a very, I'm going to ask you to probe what about the construct of marriage didn't work for you? Because even now, after you've divorced Amir, both of you have, and it's visible, it's not even just something that you're saying, that the friendship between you guys is very, very intact, you know? So then, what about the construct of marriage did not work for you?
I guess taking from Javed Saab's lines, I mean, our friendship was so strong that even marriage couldn't break it, basically. You know, it was just I feel like as two individuals, we had come to a place where we wanted our own lives. At least I did want some independence. I wanted to be able to, in a way, I think once you've kind of lived with a person for very, very long, you've had your children, there's a time comes when you feel like the need to explore yourself again, and I wanted a little bit of space for myself. And, you know, when actually marriage possibly could afford you that, but our marriage was also very high octane, very public, a lot of commitments socially, a lot of things that come with the turf of being married to Amir Khan. And honestly, you know, while our friendship was very deep, there were lots of things I wanted to explore on my own, you know. I had lived as a single woman for like more than a decade and a half before marrying him. And I enjoyed it. Of course, with Azad, I'm not quite like, it's not quite the same thing. I have responsibilities and all the rest of it. But I felt that we were secure as a family enough for me to not need that construct of marriage to hold us together in a relationship. And I think for both of us, that was the instinct, is that we both could be, you know, there for each other without having sort of a social sanction to our relationship. We didn't really need it anymore. And it allows me to, I don't know, kind of explore being single and living my life the way I want.
So, Rich, I want to come back to you. You know, you're on the threshold of having a baby. Do you think that, what is your construct of motherhood in your head? Is it something you're going to give up your art for? Do you think you'd like to be a working mom? Do you have any ideas about it, or you're just taking the ride? And I'm asking all this because I want to inch my way to both of you speaking about, you know, just what feminism means, because both of you have been kind of identified as feminist voices in the industry. So that's why I'm inching from the personal to the public, you know.
My mother taught in a college all through my growing up years. I remember when my brother was born, my younger brother, she was back at work within 45 days. Again, we are privileged. There was childcare and you know, support within the joint family set up for her to be able to return to work as soon as possible. So yeah, I've created those structures around my life. I have a very participative partner. He's very, very hands-on and reading books about baby sleep already. So he knows that I can also get some rest when it's required. And um, thankfully, we live in a country where we have so much help also available to us. But I have diversified, I won't say. Like, I want to produce more, I want to perhaps write more. And I think the little break of, say, maybe 6 months starting, because I am my own boss, I'm giving myself a maternity break from the 10th of this month. So after that, maybe in the 6 months that I have off, apart from being a new mom, I'm going to explore things that help my brain grow, things that I otherwise wouldn't have time for.
So when you said help your brain grow, you started your own production house. What is the kind of stories you want to tell? It's a big thing to become a producer. There's a lot of financial risk in it. Uh, what are the stories that you feel you're not being able to tell now, not being able to support, which you would like to? Or what's the kind of cinema you want to do?
Uh, Actually, wanting to be a producer also came from the space of sometimes giving my best to a film, like really, just putting my life on the line for something, and only to see it like not either marketed well, not distributed well, and not positioned correctly, let's just say. And I felt like in order for actors to have more creative control, a lot more of us would be getting into production. Not because we want to become like the big producers of yore, but simply to have more options to, look at the whole world and not just India. The first film we produced is actually called Girls Will Be Girls, and it won 2 awards this year in January at the Sundance Film Festival.
Oh, nice.
Yes, thank you. That's something that my college friend Shuchi and I worked on together
Right.
for several years. And just like I'm so blessed to have really smart, committed, gorgeous women who are like driven to tell stories that actually make an impact. Much like Kiran, who I'm very like, I loved her film. I loved Dhobi Ghat too. And it's just, it's a good time for us to, it's not easy, like you said, but it's a really great time to keep trying to push the needle forward
Right.
little by little.
So I just want to circle back a little bit to your own experience. You've said quite often that you don't like being called bold. You hate that word. You don't like being identified in this particular way. Why is that? And what was that experience? You were in Gangs of Wasipur when you were 25, and you said that really typecast you. Now that was a hit film. It's a cult film. To be part of that, you said actually instilled a lot of fear in your body about yourself as an artist and a woman. Can you talk to the audience about that?
It's okay. So in the Hindi film industry, there are some words that we use that are, they don't really mean that thing literally, but it comes to be identified with some like a kind of thing. Like, for instance, glamorous. Glamorous just means like a lot of cleavage and a lot. It doesn't really, glamorous per se is not a bad word. Bold per se is not a bad word. But then it's sort of a weird meta marriage of my like Twitter opinion plus my role as this female gangster, Bholi Punjaban. And when the worlds meet, then I just almost feel like, the person sitting opposite me is almost a little bit fearful,
Is
and
free of?
is fearful. Like, if I do an interview, they're like, I'm very scared to ask you this question, but, and there's just no, I mean, and funnily, it doesn't happen to men. Men can play villains and everything, and then it doesn't. And again, coming to Gangs of Wasipur, I wasn't the only character who was aging. There was, the story went over 30, 35, 40 years. So it happened to everybody. But in the roles that I was getting after that, they were pretty much men much older to me, saying that, but we can do this aging makeup and you'll do such a fab job. Not only is it unfair to me, it's unfair to an older bracket of actresses who anyway find that their work is shrinking to the role of the dutiful mother, and why should I take that? I just So consciously stayed away from a lot of those.
Right. So, Kiran, I'm going to come back to you on this, but Richard, just to stay with you for 1 minute more, you said that you've written a short story during that time called The Life of a Pin-Up, of a art house pin-up, What does that mean? And what were you really want? Did you want to get glamorous roles that would take you to Switzerland? Like, what were you yearning
No,
for
no,
at
no, no.
that
I
point?
wasn't really yearning. Like I said, I grew up in a joint family. So my mother introduced me to Shyam Benegal and Adur Gopalakrishnan. And we also had my chacha's family with whom I would go and watch Coolie #1 in the hall. So there was, I mean, I understood very clearly and very early that both of these worlds can coexist. I wrote a short film about the independent film setup actually, where people are like, hey, we can't pay you, but here's some exposure, and here's some, there's a fistful of rice on which you can survive for the next 2 years. And, and it was kind of ironic. It was like a sketch comedy thing. I never ended up making it because um, that was the time that AIB and companies like that started doing a lot of comedy sketches anyway. But I wrote it with that in mind, like how people come to Bombay and then they're like running on the beach and doing, exercises and vocal warm-ups and the independent side of filmmaking is almost um, in its own way as flawed as the major
Commercials.
mainstream spaces.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Kiran, to come back, I was asking about the personal, but you've been identified with this very strong voice for women's rights within the industry and outside in the storytelling. So, today, do you think your idea of how to talk about feminism has shifted in any way? If you were like told to just articulate it, what would it mean for you today? One within the industry and then just in the larger world.
Um, so no, it hasn't changed hugely, except as I've grown, I've understood through personal experience what women go through a lot more. For instance, the fact that I was working but wasn't really being paid technically to raise my child, to run my house and a production house and do producing work. It's often, the thing is that I took a hiatus from directing. But that's true for 99% of women, is that their work is not considered work, it's not given, it's not valued. And these things only came home to roost after I'd stopped being a single person with my own income, living my own life. So I think, I suppose my understanding or my more I feel keenly felt experience of feminism was once I became a mother and started working as a mother. And I realized that actually for me, feminism is giving women opportunities, equal opportunities, which often just sounds wonderful, but it means restructuring whole systems so that they can have those opportunities. And obviously keeping women safe, which is number one, which we shouldn't even have to say. But it starts from very basic things. So I feel, it's what everyone should want. I don't know why, only some people are feminists, you know?
But Rich, I want to come to you. Is that your definition? I know that, for instance, people think that that all women directors. So, like as a producer, do you think your sets would have a different feel by virtue of being a woman? Do you think there's a biological truth to that? That all women sets would have a particular tonality to it? What's your idea of feminism?
I mean, the first film we produced, we consciously had a 70 to 80% female set, and that was by design because it was a film about a coming of age film between a teenage girl and her relationship with her mother, who's a young mother, but has been sort of relegated to the background, and it was like a dual coming of age for both mother and daughter. There was some sexuality involved, so we wanted the sets to feel like a safe space. And we actually went the extra mile and we applied for a grant to Berlinale in 2022. You had to make a pitch, and basically you get like a little bit of money to do something socially forward in your own industry. So we set up a free lighting training camp for women to, just to learn how to light, like storytelling through lighting. And we called it Undercurrent. Um, and because there was no light women in the industry, now there are about 3 or 4 who've graduated from this and yeah, continue to do lighting work. And we're going to have the second season of this undercurrent lighting training workshop in October this year. So this is like this, for us, it was important to um, not discuss it, like just structure it into the system in some way so that while we do the other work, it becomes a self-sustaining model and we can go ahead with it.
Right. But I was asking you for your definition of feminism. You know, do you think that by virtue of being a woman, that there's a particular tonality to it? That, do you think you've never met any women who are toxic? Or
No, there are plenty toxic women.
Right.
I think it's an unfair notion to assume that women are not capable of evil or of vile or of malice. There are women who will, support a rape accused man just because in some way there's an opportunistic triangle going on or something. So what feminism has nothing to do with gender, I think. It's what you believe in, how you're raised. Yeah. There's plenty feminist men and very, very misogynistic women.
Right.
I feel.
So, I want to just touch upon another thing, which is the relationship with the body, and you've talked about bulimia and the fact that you had to seek therapy to sort out your mind vis-a-vis your own body and, the image factor that is so important in the industry. Can you talk to us about that? Like, were there particular triggers that drove you that? Was it your own self-doubt?
Actually, I have to say it was a female producer. Now that I look back,
who drove you to bulimia?
I really do feel like I didn't know I was kind of suffering in that way. Only after about a month, I realized that okay, this is not healthy, and I had a great support system in my family, in my partner Ali. He was still my boyfriend then, and then. So I got over it pretty quickly and I spoke about it as well. But I'm saying, see, now it was a really toxic work environment with a woman at the helm of it who was worse than any man I've ever met. You know what I mean? So just, I'm really happy it's in the past.
But that was one woman. I'm saying that was there understanding in like, were you trying to shape your body into something which is industry standard, or was it just that one woman?
I think it was working on a particular project that demanded a lot of me physically. That led me to that. And having said that, the beauty standards is a really big and open debate now. And this is something that I don't know how concerned people will be because they have divergent opinions, but just the way that even women in their 20s feel the need to alter their faces right now to sort of, become, I don't know, I'm worried that a day might come where we might look like the AI versions of ourselves on that just photograph well, but in person, we look kind of alien-like.
Right. So, we're going to run out of time. I feel like we haven't begun. But Kiran, both of you have been mediated for the public through the media. It's very, it's not very often that you can describe yourself as how you see yourself. Today, if I were to ask what you appreciate about yourself, what are the qualities about Kiran that you like? What is it that you would like the world to actually experience about you? What would your kid like? What would you like your kid to know about you? Not mediated through the media, but in your own voice, what would it be?
Oh, tough question. But, well, actually, honestly, I feel people get my vibe quite quickly. I'm an open book, honestly. And I think maybe to a fault, I'm a bit, I genuinely feel I'm kind and I want to be good to people. And I think that's what I'd like to pass on to Azad as well is good to not just people, to life at large. Yeah.
Before I come to you, I have to share a funny story about that. Talking just about myself, sometimes I play this game with my boys, which is to say, what do you like about me? What do I like about you? You know, all of that sort of character games. And they always speak of me as someone they respect because I'm intelligent or I'm informed. And I have driven into them, it's so bizarre. The thing that really matters to me is that I think of myself as a kind person, you know? So I have drummed it into them so much now, all their birthday letters to me say, Mama, you're the kindest person, you know? So I've beaten the idea of kindness into them, you know? But I'm going to come back to ask you what you don't like about yourself, Kiran. But Richa, tell me about you. As a character, if you were describing Richa Chadha, the character, what are the qualities you like about Richa?
I really like, the thing I like about myself is that I really don't care what people think of me. Mostly, for the most part. I don't think I could have been here if, you know, even if I had listened to some of my own relatives about coming to Bombay and trying to act in the dirty den of vices that is Bollywood, in their opinion. And I am compassionate and I'm creative, and I don't think that because I don't care what people think or how they see me, that gives you a sort of resilience to just keep doing new things and trying new things and living life on your own terms, really just being happy and having a rich interior life also. You know, I like one of the things I really want to do in my maternity break is gardening. Now, who's going to stop me?
Who's going to stop you? That's not a really life-threatening, nation-breaking
Exactly.
ambition, you know, so no one's going to stop you doing that.
No.
No.
Even if it was, no. I mean,
Even if you had a nation-breaking ambition, you would not stop. I know. You know, again, I'd like to salute the fact that you're one of the few public figures that actually has risked your, and I use the word risk, your career to speak up, you know, when you, even on public issues, when we are seeing the same thing happen in America now, but in India, when the universities were being attacked, you did speak up, and, you know, it does put your creative career in jeopardy, but you've done that. So that's really something to respect. Kiran has, of course, as well. I was going to come back to her. But just to stick with you for a moment more, what do you not like about yourself, Richa?
what
You're having to think really hard about that.
no. I think I overthink. That's the thing I don't like.
You overthink.
Yes.
Yeah. And Kiran, you?
I think it's that I find it hard to be assertive beyond a point. Like, I don't like to say no to people. I feel bad for people. I mean, it's kind of like an annoying quality about myself because I know I'm giving too much of myself and my energy, and, you know, I'm giving away precious stuff I want to reserve for myself, but I just, you know, people ask me for time, people ask me for opinions, and I can never say no. I can't assert myself and be like, no, I can't do it. Because, yeah, I guess it's the bad side of being a kind person. You can't, like...
Right. But that's unusual because in some interview, I don't know if this is true, and I'm coming back to it because we're examining what it's like to be women in a creative industry, in a public world, that someone said that you are very mufat, you know, that you always give your opinion out. And so, you know, does that come with a certain prickly reputation of like not being the soft doormat, you know, and is that something you own or you don't want to own that?
Yeah, I
And
own
I
that
remember you saying you would love to be Rima Kakti, but you're not.
I am Mufat in the sense that I will, you know, when I said you know, people ask me for time, I can't say no. But when they ask for me for my opinion, I always give it, which is not always what they want. Yeah, I think that came from set because when I'm working with actors particularly, if I don't like something, or if I feel like they need to do something else, I'm quite, I try to say it nicely and steer them in the right direction, but I don't settle for anything less than what I want. So yeah, so I guess they, like on set, one of the things was like, she's not going to let you go, boss. You're going to have to deliver. Otherwise, yeah.
Right. So I believe Sanjay Leela Bhansali made you do 99 takes of one scene. What was that? And now again, Mr. Bhansali has a reputation for being a hard taskmaster, which I would respect, frankly. But what was it that he was seeking that took 99 takes to give?
I don't know what he was seeking because even after 99 takes, it was not an okay take. It was just pack up. But I do believe that the film is the director's medium, and it is my job to do it not just 99 times, but 300 times if there should be a need, you know. We can't, on the one hand, praise Stanley Kubrick and be like, oh, Sanjay Leela Bhansali is a hard taskmaster. I just think he has very high standards. He does his own version of the world very well, and unlike anyone else. So much so that other people who attempt to go into that kind of nostalgia or period, they come off looking like they're copying him, you know. And he's extremely collaborative. And I think that if I had hundreds of crores riding on things that I was making, and 300 extras on a set, and a massive set, and real expensive jewelry, and real musicians and dancers, and things that actually cost money because they're on the clock, I probably would be the same.
Right. I'm going to have to end it there. I'm going to ask both of you one last question, which is the hardest part of, I think, being a woman. And, you know, we had framed this entire session as what does it take to hold up one half of the sky? You know, you've talked about this dilemma of wanting to be kind, of it being almost an impediment in an industry. You of wanting to do the quintessential thing of being an actor is to play many roles, and then getting typecast in that at 25 being offered grandmother roles, or of only being offered abusive roles. Till now you've done this, you know, lovelorn woman, so maybe you'll get some love roles. But the last and hardest thing is the issue of money. Do both of you find it hard to or easy to negotiate money? Are you able to negotiate equality for yourself where money is concerned? Are you able to have money discussions without sounding ungainly?
I mean, honestly, again, in my situation, when I was producing with Amir used to do most of the deal making because he had already been in the industry for 20 years before I'd met him. So it was, I was always at an advantage because I got to learn and understand a lot of the sort of logic behind how he makes his sort of financial decisions. But having said that, when it comes to actually valuing myself, I'm always, I don't know, apologetic. You know, it always feels like, am I doing the right thing? And I keep hearing about what did directors who are men charge, or what the going, you know, possibly the rate for a director or a producer is, or what films are being made at, or can be made at, etc. So I do find it hard to kind of arrive at that sweet spot where I can, you know, because you're always thinking about the person who's putting in the money and being like, you know, you don't want to cause that project to be loaded too heavily. So I have to say I am not the best, I think, at judging what my own value should be. And I don't think money talks are my favorite or my best conversations.
What about
But
you,
I'm
Richa?
hoping to get better at it. I'm working on it.
Richa, you?
Actually, I was quite bad at it also, and very trusting of the industry, which sadly has a lot of middlemen. And, you know, it's like weird. Sometimes money just disappears in their hands. But during COVID, this one instance, I saw a script and I really wanted to do it. And it was really nice. But I also knew that they had a good producer. And I got so comfortable in my house. I was like, okay, you know, if it happens, it's good. But if it doesn't happen also, it's fine. So I quoted what I thought I deserved. And I said that, you know, don't push it. If it's happening, it's fine. Otherwise, I'm happy. And strangely, they agreed. They negotiated a bit with my manager, but they agreed. Then I was like, oh God, I should have done this sooner. And, think of all the money I could have made. But yeah, since then, I just feel like I'll be like, if something doesn't feel like the emotional involvement in something feels more costly than, and not to say that we all don't take pay cuts on films we love. There's no way in which you can make a Lapata Ladies with newcomers or even a Masan. If you want to, you have to stay true to the indie budget of an indie film. So the budget and the story determines everything in a sense. So I have that. But yeah, if I feel like there's a walkaway price and if I feel like the other person might concede, then I at least try to walk away a little bit.
Thank you, both of you, very much. The fact that you both put so much value on emotional involvement is a big thing. Thank you so much. I just wanted to give two little details about them. You're meeting a woman who is the master of knowing how to be friends with your ex's ex-wives. That makes her very special. And Richa, who, as I said, has been journeying through all these roles, but she had shared a lovely anecdote about how someone was trying to cut her light, and without causing any offense, she still blossomed into the light. And here she is in the light, both of them doing their own thing, but making their mark. Thank you very, very much for joining us. Thank you.